Let's go. Welcome, everyone. First of all, while we're here, I want you to give yourself a pat on the back. Take some time because if you're building your skill set when it comes to your messaging and marketing, you're doing what matters most. I was contemplating what makes these calls valuable. And I think what most people do with their marketing is they learn and then they kind of market themselves if it's effective, not effective, but then they don't exactly build on the skill set quick enough, right? You may put out a message and it may be sitting on your website for a year and you're like, I'm not kind of getting inquiries. Or you may create some content and you may get little engagement and you just create the same content maybe for 6 months and you're like, I'm not necessarily sure this is working. Anyone resonating with that? Because I know for me, I don't change my website too often and I don't change my bio too often. And I don't necessarily, when I'm creating content, sometimes I don't exactly think how I can change things up to recognize what's working, what's not working, right? However, there's a big benefit to working on your skill set through exercises, almost like when you're working your brain by doing a puzzle, right? When you do a mathematical equation or you do a puzzle and you train your brain, you get smarter at doing the similar problems. Yes. How many people, I know I don't need to say it a million times, but how important is your messaging and marketing in the world of business, especially now everyone's running a business and everyone's on social media? How you stand out and your messaging is the life and blood of your business, right? How many times in the last week, the last month, the last year, have you looked at a business message and thought, how can I improve this? Right? How many times have you been given a business message and thought, how clear is this? How can I make it more clear? How can I make it more compelling? Besides those of you who have joined my Quick Win campaign intensive over the last few months, not many people do that, right? Not many people work at the skill set and go through exercises or puzzles to test their skills and build the muscle necessary with taking a message and making it more clear and compelling, then another message, making it more clear and compelling, right? That's what we're going to do today. Because if you can practice the skill, do you think you're going to bring it back into your own business? Right? Do you think you're going to practice it? And then next time you write your content, next time you write a bio, next time you message someone about what you're doing and what you're putting together, next time you have a conversation with someone, do you think those skills are going to transfer consciously or unconsciously? I think so. And I know I did this exercise in the group intensive over the last few months. People said it was one of the biggest insights I've ever had is to actually practice and actively, consciously build the skills. So that's what we're going to do today. What I did is I went to Claude and I got it to generate some random business messages in the form of, a 2 to 3 sentence personal message. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at that message, identify if the niche, problem, and outcome is mentioned, and have a discussion on what, if it is clear and compelling on a scale of 1 to 10, and then what would make it more compelling. Therefore, we get to build the skills. Sound good? Sound fun? Anyone a little bit nervous? All right. I will share my screen and we'll get this underway. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, got thumbs up from hands, cool. All right, welcoming a few more people from the waiting room here. So, marketing mastermind call number, I don't know, but this is the title. So over the weeks, we've been working on these key pillars and how to make these key pillars more clear and compelling. But these pillars are what make up your business message: the niche, the problem, the outcome. And last week we spoke mostly about the vehicle. But if you can stand out by being specific, clear, and compelling on these pillars, then people are going to feel called to your work instead of alternatives. Now, you don't have to be very specific in all of them, right? But you do have to be specific in at least some of them. I would say out of the 4, try and aim for at least 2. 3, great. You don't necessarily have to go very, very specific on all 4, right? You can breathe. So the niche, when I talk about the niche, I'm talking about the demographics. So you need to be clear on who you're talking about and the demographics, the age, the profession, right? The type of the type of things you would see when they're describing themselves and their characteristics. I'm not talking about the kind of people who feel like they're X, Y, and Z. As soon as I'll say, who's your niche? And someone say, the kind of people, when they feel like they're just, and I'm like, no, it's not, you're not going into tangible characteristics. You're not going into the demographics. All I need to know is the demographics. Is it primary school teachers? Is it men in their 50s, right? Is it CEOs? Is it nurses? Is it women under 30? You know what I mean? Demographics. Then we work at the problem. Problem, something that's tangible, investable, and measurable. That's what we call a priority problem. A problem that your audience is thinking about when they stare at the ceiling at night, not able to sleep, in the language that they're thinking about. The type of language, the type of thinking that is going through their head already. And then the outcome. We try and make the outcome that we help people achieve. We explain it in ways that are easily visual. Can someone easily create a snapshot of success in their mind? Right? This is the difference between an outcome where I say, I help people create a fulfilling and sustainable life. I help people create heighten their levels of self-love so they can establish more certainty in themselves, so they can be more connected to their body. Nothing comes to mind, right? Compared to, I help people stand on stage and talk in front of 20 ideal clients, right? I help you master communication so that the connection with you and your partner, you can hug each other like you're the only people on the planet. That's visual, right? I help you with your back pain so you can play with your grandkids, hold your grandson above your head without any back pain. Visual. It's visual. So it just helps to make your outcome visual. Last week, we talked about the vehicle. That's your method, modality, strategy that gets someone from A to B. If that's very unique, if it's very compelling, if people visualize and perceive it as the missing link, as the secret sauce, right? The missing piece of the puzzle they haven't tried yet, and why it's better than alternatives that are currently not working, you've got something good going on there. So here's what we're going to do. The NPO exercise. NPO stands for niche, problem, outcome. So as I said before, I'm going to give some examples of some short elevator pitches that mention a combination of niche, problem, and/or outcome. Meaning some of these have the niche, some of them have the niche and problem, some of them have the niche, problem, and outcome, some of them have the problem and outcome, right? They have a different combination. What I want you to get good at is recognizing which pillars of niche, problem, and outcome are listed and are mentioned in the sentence, in the elevator pitch. Why? I came to, when I started coaching people around this, I started realizing a lot of people struggle with differentiating the niche, problem, and outcome. The reason why that's a problem is because when you're putting a business message together, if you think you're mentioning a problem and instead you're mentioning an outcome or vice versa, it may not land with your audience and you may not know why. There's been a lot of times when I ask someone, what's the problem you're solving? And they say, look, I just love helping people be pain-free. And I say, hey, pain-free is the outcome. I asked for the problem, and vice versa. I'll say, what's the outcome they want? And someone will say, they're just stuck in life and they don't know what career path to go down. And I'm like, hey, that's the problem, not the outcome. You know what I mean? So therefore, I realized, oh, when you're creating a business message, sometimes people are not creating the pillars effectively, and therefore they're not even realizing why it's not landing with their audience. They think they have all the ingredients listed, but they actually don't. So we're going to get good at that first. What we'll do is I'm going to bring up the elevator pitch, and I want you to do one thing. I want you to type in the Zoom chat N, P, or O, which corresponds with if I mention the niche, problem, and or outcome, right? So if I bring up the elevator pitch and all three, so the niche, problem, and outcome are all listed, then you're going to type in the Zoom chat NPO. If it's only the niche and problem, you're going to type in NP. If it's only the problem and outcome, you're going to type in PO. Make sense? You don't have any questions? To make it even more interactive, what I'll get you to do is I will get you to type it in the chat, but don't press enter yet. We'll press enter at the same time, right? This is what I say here. Now, I'm not talking about what's implied. So at some of the business messages here, you may say, oh, the problem's implied. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is clearly mentioned. Because when you're creating a business message, you don't want to imply anything. You don't want to assume anything. You don't want to assume, oh, I'll put this together. And yeah, the audience will figure out what the problem is I'm solving. Not very smart, is it? You want to be very clear and very compelling is what we're working on. So does this make sense? Let's go through a dummy one. Let's go through an example. So here's an example of an elevator pitch. Hey, name, I'm putting together some resources for people who can't stop scrolling at night and are waking up exhausted. I want to help them get 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep so they feel sharp and energized every morning. Would you be interested in something like that? So let's work through this. Let's ask ourselves the question. Is there a niche mentioned? Is there a problem mentioned? And or is there an outcome mentioned? Right? So type in the chat, who's the niche mentioned here? Who's the niche that's mentioned? Remember, the niche is the demographic. The demographic. If you can see, there is no demographic. Right? No demographic. Just checking out the chat here for you all. It says, hey, I'm putting together some resources for people. People is not that's not a demographic, that's not a niche. However, is there a problem? Is there a problem mentioned? I would say yes. What is the problem? Can't stop scrolling at night and are waking up exhausted. That is a problem, right? I want to help them get 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep so they feel sharp and energized every morning. That is an outcome. Yes? Some of you typed in the chat and said problem outcome. Perfect. Question. What would make this? Here's a good question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most clear and compelling thing you've ever heard in your life, 1 being the most broad, nebulous, and intangible thing you've ever heard in your life, what would you rank this in terms of clear and compelling on a scale of 1 to 10? Let's type that in the chat. Is this clear and compelling? What do we think? A lot of these things is subjective, right? A lot of these are subjective. It's like an art form, but it's worth asking the question, because when you ask yourself the question, is this clear and compelling? You're actually learning. You're not just observing something, you're actually learning something. Okay, what is it about this that's clear and compelling? What is this about this that's not clear and compelling, right? So some of you typed in 7s, 4, 6. I think it's pretty, like, for me, yeah, it's about a 6 or 7. It's very clear what the problem is, and it's pretty clear what they're trying to achieve. A very broad and nebulous message is, hey, I'm helping people who feel stuck in life and they're trying to find a sense of meaning. Very broad, very nebulous. That's a 1 or 2 out of 10, right? We understand they have sleep problems. Now that's a tangible problem. Sleep, right? Waking up exhausted. We can get very clear on, it's very clear of the outcome. Get them 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep, right? So that's very clear and it's tangible and it's also measurable. Correct? 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's not just saying, I want to help them get good sleep. That's pretty broad it's still very clear on what they're trying to achieve, but it's less measurable. It's like, what is good sleep, right? They're saying here, hey, 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep, very measurable, which gives it a bit more of a tick. Yes. So what would make this more clear and compelling, do you think? Feel free to unmute, type in the chat. What would make this more clear and compelling? What would make this a couple more points on your scale of 1 to 10? Payment.
Yes. First of all, calling directly readdressing.
Yep.
Single fathers, single mothers, whatever, the demography. And then I would also, how are you doing this and how long is it going to take?
Yep.
Like, for example, I help single fathers, for example, single mothers who are wasting too much time scrolling at night, get a proper sleep by doing X in as little as 7 days, for example, or just 5 minutes a day. Something very simple. So it's really, wow, that's me.
Cool. Love it. That's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking if there's a niche mentioned in terms of first-time mums, for example, hey, I'm helping first-time mums, get 7 to 8 hours of solid sleep. That's a more specific niche. And therefore, you can probably mention, as you're hinting here towards payment, you could also mention the vehicle. Like, how is it specifically you're helping me get more sleep? Is it through supplements? Is it through hypnosis? Right? Is it through the right? Is it the right mattress? There's so many different things you can use, right? As vehicles to help you get the outcome. So mentioning a specific vehicle is, for example, if you do a particular meditation at night for 7 minutes before you go to sleep to increase your sleep to 7 or 8 hours. Now that sounds pretty, what your message also needs to do is sound believable. So if you say, hey, you've got a crying baby and you're not sleeping all night and whatever, but if you do this meditation for 5 minutes before bed, you're actually guaranteed to sleep 8 hours. People are going to be like, no. Right. So it also needs to be believable for it to be compelling, correct?
Yeah.
There's actually, they ran a study. There was a business guy, I forget his name, forget who it was. There was a prominent businessman. He ran an ad in the newspaper that said, if you send me $5, I'll send you $100. Something like that. And very irresistible offer, correct? How many takers do you think he got?
2.
0.
Oh, really good.
0. No one believed it.
Yeah.
Right? Someone's like, you're gonna steal my $5. You're gonna steal my $5. You're not sending me 100. But he's like, if anyone sends me $5, I'll send you 100. But it's just to create a point that your marketing also needs to be believable. So if your vehicle, hypnosis, supplements, a particular bed night routine, a particular mattress, whatever, you need to have the explanation as to why your vehicle is so important is going to help them get that. Correct? All right, let me look at the chat here. So Ray's saying, if I had that problem, instead of just sharp and energized, make that part reference your niche to do what? He says, should have put that ad in a publication for gamblers. Yeah, exactly. Know your demographic. So what do you mean here, Ray? So you say instead of just sharp and energized, so that's obviously what we're trying to achieve in the morning through 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Make that part reference your niche. What do you mean there?
Yeah, so like whoever you picked as can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So, and whoever you pick as the niche, if that was going to say single parents, I think somebody mentioned, instead of just saying, wake up so you feel sharp and energized, you would reference something that a single parent would do in the morning, like something about getting their kids off to school or whatever they have to do. If you're trying to juggle kids and getting yourself ready for work at the same time, whatever it is, whatever you labeled as the niche, put their activity as the thing.
Cool. Love it. Yeah, 100%. It's a great point. If you're to focus on single parents who aren't getting a lot of sleep and you're trying to help them with the outcome of feeling well rested after 7 or 8 hours of sleep, yeah, you'd say probably the outcome is so you can look after your kids to the best of your ability, so you can get them to school on time, so you can have problem-free mornings because you're energized enough to manage the chaos that kids bring. Right? Very good point. And that will be different for someone who's not, if your niche is not a single parents. If your niche is busy business owners, who are working 14 hours a day, different niche, right? They're going to have different problems. They're probably going to want to achieve the outcome of being well rested for a different reason, right? Which you would probably highlight. Which would probably be, hey, if your cognitive functioning isn't happening to make those high-level decisions, what the hell is going to happen to your business? Different niche. Do you all see, as we go through this example and talk about it, you're actually practicing and enhancing your skills? I was doing this with AI quite a bit. I would get AI to give me a random business message, and I would make it more clear and compelling, and then say, what feedback do you have? What ideas do you have that will make it even more clear and compelling? And then I saw where my idea was lacking, and then I improved it, and going back and forth. I find that fun because I think this is just such a valuable skill set. But I'm realizing very, very few people are doing this, right? But when you practice, you're starting to get more ideas, and therefore you can bring that into your own business. Like even now, I'm talking through it with you all, with Payman and Ray and your feedback in the chat. Like I'm learning. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, when it comes to the niche. Anyway, let's go to the next one. So, hey, name. I'm looking to help new mums. Funny. I'm looking to help new mums get back to feeling like themselves again so they can enjoy this chapter rather than just survive it. Would you be interested in something like that? So don't press enter yet, but type in the chat and get ready to press enter. We'll press enter all at the same time, and I'll tell you when. But just type in and get ready to send enter. Niche, problem, and or outcome. What is listed here? What is listed in terms of the niche, the problem, and or the outcome? So you can type in the chat now. You can press enter. What do you think? A lot of niche and outcomes. So, question. Who is the niche? New mums. So new mums get back to feeling like themselves again, so they can enjoy this chapter rather than just survive it. Sounds to me like an outcome, right? Sounds to me like that's positioned as an outcome. They're feeling like themselves again, so they don't just have to survive. Now, you could argue that, hey, just surviving it is the problem. You could also say that. That's why this is a little bit of an art form. But if you were to position a very clear problem, then it might look something like, I'm looking to help new mums who currently feel like they're just trying to survive life. That's positioned as a problem, right? Not saying it's a good problem, but I'm just saying that's how it's formulated in terms of the problem. And then I'm going to help them feel like themselves again so they can enjoy this next chapter of their life. That's framed as the outcome. So when you're putting a business message together, if you do want to highlight all of the niche, problem, and outcome, you can do that effectively. Make sense? All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very compelling at all, 10 being the most clear and compelling thing you've ever heard in your life, where would you rate this message? I'm looking to help new mums get back to feeling like themselves again so they can enjoy this chapter rather than just survive it. For me, I'm giving this a 3, solid 3. Because once again, does this pass the ceiling test? If someone's struggling in their life, are they staring at the ceiling, just wishing, like their best wish is, I wish I could just feel like myself again? Maybe some people use that language, but it's not very tangible, right? And it's pretty vague. Once again, so they can enjoy this chapter. What is that? What chapter is that? Rather than just survive it. Now, it's not a 1 out of 10. We still get a general idea, right? You still get a general idea of they got new mums. Cool, that's pretty clear, right? New mums. People know if they're a new mum or not. Me, I'm not a new mum. This isn't for me. Good. I know that now. So that's pretty clear. But so they can feel like themselves again, so they can enjoy this chapter rather than just survive it. I understand. I understand roughly what they're doing, but it's pretty vague, yes? Question, how would you make this more clear and compelling? Unmute yourself, type it in the chat. How would you make this more clear and compelling for these new mums to feel like this is something I need to jump in on?
Say something about being there for your kid. I mean, like, that would be far more compelling than being yourself.
Yep. Hey, great point. So getting into the mind of a new mum. They're generally not thinking about themselves, right? Right? If you've got a newborn, their mind is not on themselves. Their mind is on, how do I be a good mum? How do I look after this kid? So
Hey, Tyson.
yeah, go for it, Ray.
I was just going to say they could have been a little more specific, even in mentioning the new moms get back to feeling like themselves again. It's not really saying like what the problem was. I mean, is this like postpartum depression, or is this like first? This is my first child, so it's the first time I've done all this stuff. Is like what is actually the problem
Yep.
with the whole new mom? Because like, how literally do you take that? Is it like someone that just gave birth? Like, what's going on there?
Yep. Yep. 100%. Yeah, you can get more specific on the niche, whether it's new mums with toddlers, new mums with twins. My mum had twins. I got a twin brother. It's a lot of work. Did they just give birth to their first kid? Right. You could even have a niche where they're a stepmom for the first time. Different problems, right? Completely different problems. But yeah, postpartum depression is a more specific problem. People are going to know if that's them or not. So they can enjoy the chapter. Like, what is that? Right? As Derek said, they're going to want to be the best mum. So this message needs to land. You need to use the language and the problems and outcomes that enter their mind of your niche. So this is probably something that isn't landing with the with this particular niche. But yeah, specific problems. They're having issues sleeping, right? Is the baby having issues with X, Y, and Z? Baby having issues with feeding, with crying, with whatever. Could definitely be more specific. Any other ideas making this message more clear and compelling?
I have another version that I use for myself and my clients of just saying I help X do Y. I try to get it more conversational. For example, say, how newly moms sometimes, or more than likely, they have this problem. They're not really enjoying themselves. Say, yeah, well, I help them overcome that. And they say, oh, how do you do that? Well, by doing this and this. Make it conversational. So instead of them just repeating what you memorized, you just keep them engaged. That's one thing I've done that's very successful. Make it more engaging, conversational, not just a monologue.
Yeah. Cool. So asking them questions and saying, does that make sense?
Yeah. For example, like, for example, how brilliant experts are still getting overlooked. Yes. Well, I help them escape invisibility. How do you do that? Well, by help them getting into the right rooms. So how is that? By doing this way, you get them really engaged in actual conversation as opposed to just listening to you and waiting for you to finish.
Yep. Cool. Love it. Yeah, different ways of delivering the talking points, Great. Anything else? Any other ideas making this more clear and compelling?
I was thinking about that last line, that would you be interested in something like that, is kind of wishy-washy. Like, you could have said it a lot of different ways. Like, maybe once you try to paint the picture on the front end, you could have said, like, if this sounds like you, or if this sounds like something you've been through, or something to try to connect it, the person hearing the message, to the problem described in it. Like, hey, is this you? Then let's get in touch. Something other than just would you be interested. It sounds too easy to say no, not really.
Yeah, I painted. So when I drew this up with AI, I got them to do it in the form of a personal message. So this would be like a direct message.
Okay.
Send to someone. So
like you're in the DMs with it.
Yeah. So if they were to say something like, does this sound like you?
Yeah.
It's more marketing speak rather than conversation in a personal message.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like a post or an ad. I wasn't thinking about a DM like that.
Yeah, this is more like a personal message. Like if you message someone and you message a new a new mum, or you message your audience member who you like, know, and trust, and you're saying, hey, I'm looking to do this thing. I'm looking to help new mums. Would you be interested in this? That's how it's framed here. Hands, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I just follow up from the comment. I never use the word interested anymore, even in direct messaging. I think a more useful word is, are you okay with, or are you open to?
You're finding that lands better?
Yeah, because they make a decision. They're either open to it. Also, you're triggering the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Because people really would like to be considered having an open mind. So if they're closed to something, it's not something that the subconscious is going to admit. And are you okay with your asking permission?
Mm.
All of these sort of, like I always, for instance, I have a question I ask, and I ask permission to ask the question, which is always much less invasive, much less intruding.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Yeah, saying, would you be open to this? People want to be perceived as being open, rather than closed. But the permission frame is also non-invasive, not pushy, not salesy. Saying, would you be open to this?
Or you can also say, may I make a request? And then the reply will be, well, what kind of request?
Yeah.
And you can specify that it's a request that they can ignore, they can modify, or they can accept.
Another way would be, would you be opposed to having a conversation about this, or a chat?
For them to then say no?
Yes. By saying no, it's a double no. You know what I mean? They cannot say no in their mind. Would you be opposed to having a chat? Or would you be opposed to having a look at this, or what?
These are all the things we need to test and tweak with our audience. Because I remember, like, I send a lot of people personal messages, especially once they come into the serving circle. I had learning. I had to test and tweak a few things, because a couple of years ago, I would say, how did you find us how did you find the serving circle? Meaning, did you get referred? Did you find us here? Did you find us there? And I got quite a heavy percentage of responses offered a lot of resistance, because
Really?
I think they were perceiving me saying, how did you find us? Like, you're not meant to be in here. How did you find us? Compared to where my energy was coming from was like, how did you find us? It's like so cool. Who sent you? Where'd you find us? How did you find out about us? But yeah, quite a lot were cold with a lot of resistance. And so then I started saying, how did you find our group? We love welcoming friendly new members. So I get to actually give it a frame of, we love welcoming people. How did you come about finding us? Right? I had to learn that, but it's testing and tweaking. You know what I mean? Let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. So, hey, name. I'm putting something together for freelancers who keep undercharging for their work and want to learn how to raise their rates and land high-paying clients. Would you know anyone who might be interested in that? Let's type in the chat. NP and/or O for niche, problem, and/or outcome. What is listed here? Let's get your brain moving again. Niche, problem, outcome. James is much tighter. Yep. So once again, when you're putting your business message together, whether you're running a workshop, a quick win campaign, you're launching your book, you're doing something out in the world, and you're consciously wanting to add a niche, problem, and outcome, Make sure it's very clear. A lot of people, a surprising amount of people, get them confused. So who's the niche? We've got freelancers. Show of hands. Who here is a freelancer? Show of hands. Who here is not a freelancer? We know if that's us or not. Pretty clear. Who keep undercharging for their work and want to learn how to raise their rates and land high-paying clients. So the problem here is that they're undercharging. Now, whether that's a problem they would describe, if I was to ask freelancers and say, what's the main problem? What's the main problem you're running up against? And they say, look, I'm just undercharging. Whether that's clear and compelling or whether that's the most priority top of mind problem, questionable. But it makes sense. And it leads to the outcome that they probably do want. Raise their rates so they make more income, right? And land 2 higher paying clients. Is that clear and compelling? I think so. Pretty specific, measurable, tangible, investable. Are people willing to invest in something if they're to land 2 higher paying clients? Gets a tick. It's clear and compelling. So where would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being broad, niche, broad, nebulous, intangible. 10 being very clear and compelling. We've got 7, 8, 7, 8 or 9, 8. 8. Cool. Is there anything you would change to make it more clear and compelling? What ideas do you have if you were to tweak this message? What would you do to improve it?
You know, as a scientist, I like claims that are substantiated. So you're making a claim here, you're putting together something that's going to do something and end up with a positive result. So maybe to clarify it for the nerds like myself is, what's the proof?
Yep.
That's something. I mean, it's an interesting thing that we can always say something, but you know, it's like being a rainmaid. Have you ever heard of the concept of rainmaker?
I know the concept.
So a rainmaker will tell you if you pay him money, he can make it rain. If it rains, he takes credit for the rain. If it doesn't rain, you haven't paid him enough money.
I like that.
Yeah. So are you being rainmaid here?
Mm.
This
is where you'd add other talking points to it. For example, you would add the vehicle of how exactly are you getting them from A to B? How exactly are you getting them from undercharging to raising their rates and landing 2 higher paying clients? And what are the case studies, testimonials? What evidence do you have? What gives me the confidence and certainty that you can do this for me?
Yeah.
What's the confidence in me saying, I invest in this thing and I'm going to get a return on my investment?
Yeah. I would also tweak one thing. So if two clients, I would make it something even more believable. Show me how to get 1 extra client, let's say in the next 30 days or 7 days. How? The platform, say Facebook, whatever, and as little as 7 days. So the time frame, the vehicle, and make it more believable. Instead of 2 clients right away, show me how to get that first crucial client. Once I've done that, it's a matter of just replicating those steps to get client number 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Make it more believable.
Yep.
And of course, what Anne said, what proofs do you have? What track record?
Yep. Including case studies and testimonials of people like them. Freelancers, freelancers in their same industry, people who are who were undercharging, who are probably charging something similar to what they're charging now. You know, if you have case studies, testimonials of people who are in their shoes, in their same circumstance, and then the evidence that they can actually achieve that one or two higher paying client gives them more confidence and certainty. We always want to be thinking in my messaging and my marketing, how do I increase the confidence and certainty that people see me and my work as the best option for them to go from A to B.
So Tyson, how would you include the track record without doing like a 10-minute pitch? Let's say I have 1 second. Like for example, I help freelancers get better paying clients. How do you insert your track record without sounding too long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it in the first first message. So in the first upfront message, let me stop my share here. In the first upfront message, you're just testing the niche problem outcome, and you can add the vehicle if you feel it's necessary, but you're just testing the overall message. And if they're interested in the overall message, if they're like, I'm a freelancer, yeah, I'm undercharging, yeah, I would love to have 1 or 2 higher paying clients, and if you can help me do that, I am interested. I'm not committing right now, but I can continue the conversation and continue providing evidence through other ways. Whether you jump on a call with them, whether you share a resource, whether you say, hey, check out this page, hey, follow this step, hey, here's a training where it shows 5 other people who have taken this step, whatever it may be. But you're just testing the initial message to say, yeah, that resonates with me. I'm willing to learn more. And then as they're willing to learn more, you drip feed them the pieces of information that make sense and that within context of the relationship and conversation, to move them closer to confidence and certainty that what you have is going to get them from A to B.
Makes sense. Thank you.
That's what I would do. Before we wrap it up, team, do we have questions, queries, comments? Questions, queries, comments about this, how you might apply it to your own business, your own message? Does this make sense?
Yep. Very clear.
What I want you to do, take this, review your own business message, review your niche outcome problem, see if there's something that can make it more clear and compelling. Is it tangible? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Right? And if not, what might you tweak? What might you tweak? What might you play with to see if you can get a more engaging response from your community members, your audience, your ideal clients? Because this is what the skill set is about. We learn the skill, we practice it, and then we go and apply it to see what might be able to, what difference we may be able to make. Because if you're practicing the skill time and time again, you get good at this muscle. To me, I don't know where AI is going. No one knows. But I don't think anyone's ever got good at messaging and thought that was a waste of time. I don't think anyone's ever done that. Just thought, okay, I'll work on my messaging and marketing skills, and okay, that was a waste of time. It is always going to benefit you long term and benefit your audience. So please work at it. I'll upload the recording on the podcast and YouTube channel. Please reach out to me if you have any other questions, queries, comments, and let me know how you go with the implementation. All right.
Sure.
Thank you all for being here. See you same day and time next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.